before I start this video, and I've done a lot of analysis in there, but do you know how hard it is for Arsenal or any team in the Premier League to set a pace against City like this? Do you know how difficult it is not only to keep pace with the side, but to be the ones who are the pace setters, to be the ones who are saying things like, oh, you got to keep up with us now, to be 5 points ahead of another incredible side, who's arguably having a weird season, but arguably another incredible side with incredible investment. It's something that should be celebrated within the Premier League, because I think a lot of us assumed that without a Liverpool or a whoever it is, there wouldn't be a title charge like this. This is a season which we should be celebrating other sides as well. Anyway, let's get into the video. And the gap goes back to 5. Welcome back to the Lawrence McKenna channel. It's good to have you guys. If you've not already hit subscribe, hit it down there. And if you would like to hit like, then that helps the video to get even further. Share it with Arsenal friends. Share it with Fulham friends. Share it with Premier League friends, if that is where you're watching from. It was an interesting couple of days for Mikel Arteta and Arsenal. Arguably one of the sloppiest performances against Sporting Lisbon led them to a 2-2 draw, which means that in the next round, or in the next part of the tie, they need to do something, well, I mean, Arsenal this season, and do a good performance. Do a good performance. Am I speaking like Ben White all of a sudden? Anyway, the point is, a sloppy performance was put in, and therefore Sporting were given an opportunity to take advantage of Arsenal. No such advantage was afforded to Fulham in an easy 3-0 win for Arsenal. Arsenal barely even needed to get out of second gear, and that is actually quite an achievement, especially against the likes of Fulham. Fulham, of course, surging up the table more recently, looking ahead of them rather than behind, and actually a really well put together side, which is very different to what a lot of people thought they would have been when they came up this season. Maybe they're returning towards that mean, but Marco Silva has actually done something quite special this season with them and gotten some good results. Arsenal, of course, have also proven in previous weeks that a comeback is possible against Bournemouth, a comeback which was not so possible for Liverpool. They've also proven that whilst their competitors in Man City can stutter and well, not really, not impressed. I mean, maybe flattered to deceive, in fact, against the likes of Crystal Palace, who, by the way, Arsenal face next in the league. Arsenal can pretty much just meander and even just easily just push simply towards an away win at Craven Cottage, a difficult place to go this season. Not only that, but an away win with a clean sheet. Now, I will talk about the defence in just a second, but Arsenal's front line has consistently been this season, well, since the January transfer window, Trossard in the middle, Martinelli out on the left, switching across, and then, I mean, you've got Odegaard sort of in the middle doing things, but on the other side, you've obviously got Saka. In comes a little returning Gabriel Jesus at the end. We're happy to sort of see it. He's obviously got that little suave look, which most people are quite enjoying right now. And you know that there is going to be some nice rotation. But that is what I wanted to talk about with Arsenal. There are some good rotations going on. You can see Mikel Arteta experimenting with bringing in different kinds of players on. Zinchenko got subbed off in the second half for Tierney. You can see that when Tomiyasu comes on, which is a very regular substitute at this point, there is a knowing amongst the Arsenal players and the Arsenal fans about what the team is going to change. Like, in fact, I asked them what the difference was between the two, and weirdly, a lot of people characterise both not only Ben White but also Tomiyasu at right back as two very different kinds of players, but gave them like the attributes that you would have attributed to the other one. So whilst Tomiyasu was pushing on, but some people said more solid defensively, Ben White was better at pushing on but more solid defensively. There is clearly a split opinion as to what these two players bring at right back for Arsenal, but at the same time, there seems to be a sureness that both players are very confident at right back. And what's interesting about that is, if you're building up depth within the width that you have, then you've definitely got a side who's going to be controlling, and not only that, but energetic in the Premier League. And while sides are bombing down the wings, trying to supply their striker, or trying to get something into the likes of, say, a Mitrovic, then you always have a good outlet on either side, or an overload in the midfield, which is where Fulham have been so good this season, through the middle, with the likes of Mitrovic, but also a controlling midfield who maybe would get picked apart if they hadn't have done so well this season. One thing I will say is that there has been this consistency this season in trying to portray Arsenal as X-side, as trying to be, they are this. Oh, they came back late, they're doing this too early, therefore they can't continue this throughout the season. Arsenal have had a whole variation of results this season, and seasons don't just go in one tone. You're not just one dominant side. I think that's the narrative in previous seasons, and we look at previous seasons with rose-tinted glasses about, Arsenal couldn't keep up here, or Liverpool were amazing here, or Man City were just absolutely dominant here. seasons go up and down. City can be quite inconsistent this season, as can so many other sides in the league, and it's about trying to battle through that level of consistency and just being consistent as Arsenal. In the previous week, they got a late comeback against Bournemouth. Sure, a lot of people questioned the minutes or whatever, but it was clearly within the allotted amount of time. Then they have a really quite sloppy performance against Sporting, and then they have a good performance against Fulham. This side are capable of many different kinds of performances, and arguably managing those ups and downs in a season like this whilst trying to keep the emotion in a similar area is something that Mikel Arteta is actually quite good at. We saw that in the Amazon documentary, how Mikel Arteta is quite level a lot of the time when he doesn't need to be so up and down. And a lot of the time we're asking our managers to kind of be these incredibly performative clowns, whilst at the same time castigating them for doing so. Mikel Arteta seems very aware of the public air as to the side, but then is able to kind of remain calm within that, and he deserves a lot of credit for that. So, Arsenal start the game with a Xhaka and Thomas Partey in midfield. And again, I quite like this combination. You're seeing overall that when they push Zinchenko into the midfield, creating the box, they allow Xhaka to push a little bit further up. Arsenal, consistently just had control and control and control. But what they really are doing is giving the platform for all of those front three to just keep pushing forward, to keep just not to get into the half space between, the fullback and the centre back, which they definitely do, but also into the space just between the central midfielders and the centre backs. But then that is more or less occupied by the Odegaards and the Xhakas, which pushes the front line even further down the field. And so when Trossard then drops a little bit deeper, you see Martinelli push up in space, you see Odegaard actually take a more forward position, and they're not playing positionless football. But there is a front five for Arsenal, which either sees three people pushing up and therefore, two people dropping into the space between the centre midfielders and the centre backs, or you're seeing four push up, one person drop out wide, and then crossing a ball in, hence where Odegaard got his goal from. The Martinelli goal kind of confuses me because it literally looks like Martinelli just sort of goes, goal. I don't know about you guys when I was watching it, but the intensity and the overall, just the waves of Arsenal that were coming at the time seemed extremely Liverpool and City from previous seasons. Is it just me, or is Arteta taking it a step further than that? Of course, the back line, also controlling things. Those guys starting the goals, even though there was a goal before that, but it was then ruled off by VAR. But there was a goal after that, pretty simple start to the game. You kind of want your centre-backs to be contributing those kind of goals at this point. You kind of need, when a team is looking like, hey, we're going to sit deep and then break against you, that you're basically just going to smash a second header. Well, the first header, but two of the headers in the game that end up as goals. And then along with that, I'm also just really enjoying the fact that Mikel Arteta got to 100 games with wins. So it's not just, we're not just talking, he got to 100 games. It's 100 games with wins with this first team where a lot of people wouldn't have even given him 3 seasons. It gives you a little bit of we got the retrospect where we can look back now and go, imagine where this guy's taken them from and imagine where he's taken them to. They're ahead of their timeline by at least a season, if not 2, at this point. And what I did find interesting, I saw a breakdown earlier this week of the points totals for City in previous years. The narrative overall has been this, right? City maybe dropped off a little bit this season. And you could arguably say that maybe there is a minuscule drop-off. But if you compare their points totals to previous seasons, I think this week, going into this game, their maximum points total was 63. What were Arsenal on? And up until this game. So the maximum that City have achieved in previous seasons is now the maximum of what Arsenal have now achieved this season, right? So Arsenal are very much pushing City, but they're also ahead of City, arguably slightly demoralising, slightly giving them something to chase, but also matching City result for result. City go before them, Arsenal catch them up. Arguably, Arsenal go before City, sometimes City don't catch them up. So there is kind of this interesting dynamic between the two, which was kind of created by Klopp and Pep Guardiola in previous years, where it was like, you go, we go, you go, we go, we go, you go. Like that, you then are sort of, there's this almost track star-like energy between the two of them, right? And so when Man City pushed to that result yesterday, which, again, is a very Man City-ish kind of result, and they've got that kind of swagger that Man City have, where it's like, yeah, reality doesn't really bother us. Arsenal seem like a team slightly more in touch with reality. You can see sometimes there is a little bit of pressure on this side. You can see how they sometimes thrive in that pressure. You can see Arteta is sometimes playing with that pressure. You can see how there are times where they realise, it wasn't a good enough performance this week. We need something to come back. And then there is what I love about, especially with this Arsenal side, their interaction with the fans. The away section at Fulham, I've been in the Arsenal away section at Fulham. It's like, they are, in fact, I think it was a 3-0 win that I was in for that, like seasons and seasons and seasons ago, towards the end of the Wenger era, but it was impressive, right? And in that section, you've kind of got restricted view. It's not particularly pleasant. It's not like an unpleasant away section, but it's like, come on, just do something here, like impress us. And then when Arsenal do start scoring, there is this, oh, well, the expectations are going up, and therefore we should be expecting this anyway in previous seasons. Now there is such gratitude for these goals. There is such a great symbiotic relationship between the Arsenal players and the fans, where when the fans are cheering, the Arsenal players seem to respond to that. When the team play well, the fans respond to that. Isn't this just kind of passive relationship between the two, where it's like, hey, they scored, that's pretty much what we expect, so, just get on with it. There is a gratitude. There is and that goes both ways between both sets of fans now and the players. Like, you can see that out on the field. You can see there is kind of a nervous expectation of, we should be on a bit of a title charge here. We are ticking and ticking and ticking games off. And the more that you can keep that 5-point gap, especially going into April, the better. The next game, of course, Sporting Lisbon. The game after that, Crystal Palace. The game after that comes after the international break. And then you hit a run in April of 3 games against Man City, Liverpool, and Chelsea. Dotted amongst other sides, and obviously not dotted amongst other draws for, say, the Europa League if they go through there, etc., etc. So it's not like Arsenal have got an easy April. They've got 3 games in there where their league season is probably going to be defined by that. In fact, Liverpool and Chelsea probably have a say on where this title goes. Arguably, you could say Arsenal could sweep through both those sides, considering some of the performances they've had more recently. But there have been those resurgent moments. There have been moments where both those sides have chosen to perform against the big teams. So they're not going to be easy wins for Arsenal. In fact, you could even say that these will be even more meaningful than the games they played them earlier on in the season, when they, you know what happened against both those sides. So what I mean is by that, this is Arsenal now just getting a bit of momentum, moving forward and trying to just push on for a title, and doing that in what seems like quite a determined manner. You can kind of see that this Arsenal side and the Man City side are reacting to the other side's results, but Arsenal in particular are reacting to Man City right now. Man City's result yesterday was not great. Arsenal's result, very comfortable, very determined. And when Arteta starts to make those substitutions, you can see that even when the substitutes come on, they want to be ones to make the impact. All the positive things that you want to see happening at Arsenal are happening right now. And you can see there is a hunger and a need for this Arsenal team to reiterate how good they are. If they win a title this season, they know they can attract other big talent. They know they can put a marker down for where they build from in the seasons to come. And that wouldn't have happened in previous seasons. Arteta has instilled these players with something they haven't had before, and that is not only confidence, but is then technical confidence to go out there and execute. And that technical confidence has given Arsenal a confidence out on the field that they haven't really had before. Sure, they were technically good before and they could do these kind of really nice moves and really good things before, but then there were moments where they get completely taken apart. Arguably now what we're reaching is the stage last season where we expected Arsenal to push on, where we expected this level of, hey, they're going to push for the top 4 here. So what we're really going to see is key Arsenal now. We're really going to see what we didn't see in previous seasons, when we sort of saw pretty meh results when they needed them. This was one of those key results against Fulham. A 3-0 away win against a resurgent side looking to climb the table rather than just sit into mediocrity. They're great technically. Arsenal completely cancelled them out in midfield. And I think, obviously Fulham hit the woodwork and stuff, but that's so different to everything else that's going on for the teams around them right now. Fulham are arguably one of the better mid-table to upper mid-table sides right now, better than and harder to play than other teams. So there is a lot to take from this game, I would say. And the next game is Crystal Palace. Arguably, Fulham will have played Arsenal with a confidence, whereas Crystal Palace will play Arsenal with a conservatism because they want the results. It is an ex-Arsenal player going into that game. It is a really tricky tie against a really talented Crystal Palace side. But I'll be interested to see how Arsenal handle this one. Let me know what you think in the comments below. What is the next result going to be? Do they go through later this week against Sporting? Are they the kind of side that can compete on multiple fronts? Considering the amount of substitutions Arteta's making at the moment, you would think or hope so. And you could kind of see that Arteta was looking to keep some of this powder dry for later in the week with the substitutions that he made. It's great to see Gabriel Jesus come back. It's great to see that movement in the Arsenal front line. But that big signing of Trossard earlier in this January transfer window is arguably one of the most inspired signings in any title race we've seen in recent years. Let me know. What do you guys think of all of these things that I'm chatting about? I know it was kind of meanders all over the place, but I have a lot to cover in this Arsenal team, and I'd be interested to know what you guys think. After a sloppy performance comes a good one. Can they follow that with another good one going into the international break then against Crystal Palace and Sporting Lisbon? Let me know, and I'll chat to you guys in a while. Much love.